GDP. Let me explain.
GDP. What is that actually?
GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product. It's the value of all goods and services produced in a country. In a country, hence domestic, and produced, hence products. Gross means that the total value of machinery, buildings and such like used in the production of goods is included in the calculation. However, some are simply taken into service because all the machinery and buildings are worn out. If we only include additional machines and buildings, so those that are not used as replacements in the calculation, we are talking about net domestic product. NDP. After all, gross always means rough or impure calculation, while net stands for a pure amount.
And why are economists so focused on that?
In other words, GDP measures the value of an economy. You can measure it by adding up all the expenditures on goods and services produced in a country, or you can measure what is earned from that production. It amounts to the same thing. For example, the GDP of the United States was about $29 trillion in 2024. That is a lot of money, but it says little about whether the American economy is doing well. Much more interesting is the GDP per capita. That means dividing the $29 trillion by the approximately 340 million inhabitants of the country. This gives us a GDP per capita of approximately $85,000. And now it gets interesting. With that figure, the US economy is doing better than France or the UK, but less well than Switzerland or Norway. We therefore say that the latter countries are more prosperous. Another way to say something about how our economy is doing is to compare the GDP with that of previous years. If our GDP is growing, we speak of economic growth.
So, the higher the GDP, the better.
Now, money does, in a sense, make people happy. Countries with a higher GDP per capita generally have a higher life expectancy and greater well-being, thanks to the money that can be spent on healthcare and education. However, you can also criticize the battle for the highest GDP. After all, the sum of everything we earn money from does not distinguish between products that are healthy or unhealthy, polluting or sustainable. Manufacturing and smoking cigarettes in your country increases the GDP, but it may not be something you want to pursue. Concepts such as green growth do make that distinction, whereas for GDP, the rule is simply business is business.